Late at night, Janet sat in front of the mirror, carefully fixing her makeup. After making sure everything looked perfect, Janet sighed softly, stared at her reflection for a moment, then stood up and walked away. The next morning, her routine went as usual. Janet tidied up her already neat house, then brewed some coffee and started cooking breakfast. While slicing tomatoes, the doorbell suddenly rang. A little hesitant, Janet took off her apron and walked toward the door. When she opened it, she was surprised to see a strange man standing in front of her. "I'm Leo, the cleaning service guy called to fix the bathroom," he said casually. Janet frowned, feeling odd because her husband hadn't mentioned anything about this. Leo then showed her a document with her husband's signature. Still unsure, Janet finally let him in. Leo started working in the bathroom while Janet went back to the kitchen. The guy commented on her home's interior, calling it the dream of rich people. Janet just gave a thin smile before leaving him. While washing the cooking utensils, Janet noticed something strange. The water wasn't running from the faucet. A little frustrated, Janet went upstairs and found another man there. "Oh, this is Samuel," Leo said, introducing him. Samuel, who seemed impressed by Janet, just smiled. However, Janet wasn't too concerned. She just wanted to know when the water would be back to normal because she had to cook bolognese. Leo casually said that water wasn't needed for the dish and offered to help in the kitchen. Hesitant, Janet finally accepted his offer. While cooking, Leo commented on the expensive ground beef Janet was using. He asked where she bought it. "At the market," she answered casually. "They also sell processed glass there." Leo seemed offended by her answer but tried to hold it in. Meanwhile, Janet poured herself a drink. Leo asked for a glass too. As Janet grabbed a new glass, her eyes caught a stain on her perfectly white towel. Janet immediately imagined smashing the glass over Leo's head, but she could only hold her frustration inside. Leo took his drink and returned to the bathroom. Soon the doorbell rang again. This time it was his friend, Tasha. "Why did you let them in?" Tasha asked suspiciously after hearing about the two strange men at Janet's house. Janet just smiled. "Relax, I can take care of myself," she replied casually. Their conversation continued until Janet finally revealed something that had been bothering her. Her husband had been calling her less and less at night. Even stranger, this morning, her husband had just disappeared. His things, suitcase, and car were still at home, but there was no sign of him. Janet started to feel that something was off. Even more so, Leo showed up right after her husband disappeared. "I got the offer to fix this bathroom almost a week ago," Leo said suddenly, as if reading her mind. Tasha stepped outside to take a call from someone, while Janet was startled by a strange noise from upstairs. When Janet checked, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Leo was playing her husband's violin. Janet glared at him. In her head, Janet was already imagining the perfect revenge for this guy. After that, Janet decided to call the police. Leo, sounding skeptical, asked what she was going to report. Janet replied that she would report the cleaning service who was working on repairs in her house. However, Janet hesitated a bit before answering, and Leo decided to step out for a while with Samuel so Janet could calm down. Afterward, Janet went back to the kitchen and poured the bolognese sauce into the sink. Janet then sent a voice message to her husband asking if he would be home for dinner. When Janet looked out the window, she saw Leo talking to Tasha's son. Janet was reminded of how she had to deal with the annoying guy right in front of that kid. On the other hand, Samuel decided to spray Janet's perfume, while Leo walked around observing the rooms in the house. Janet talked to Tasha, who suggested that maybe her friend's husband had intentionally hired a bad cleaning service to torment her. Tasha also reminded Janet that Evan had been violent toward his ex-wife before leaving her for Janet. Janet told Tasha that she wanted to become a writer, so she could share so many things with the world. She also felt really angry and wanted to take out her frustration on someone else. Meanwhile, Samuel imagined talking to the homeowner and maybe even asking them out. On the other hand, Leo sneaked into the office, checking out various documents and things inside. Leo also found a small wallet and stole a little money from it. Janet talked to Tasha about her fears, feeling that her husband might divorce her. Tasha suggested that Janet consult with a lawyer if that happens. During their conversation, Tasha casually threw a knife. When Janet came back home, she saw Samuel trying to open the garage. Leo explained that they needed a place to leave the bathtub until the next morning. Janet promised she would talk to the neighbors and ask them to leave the bathtub outside. However, Leo insisted on opening the garage. Janet demanded that the guys finish installing the pipes within an hour, turn on the water in the house, and leave. Under the setting sun, Janet stood in the kitchen, cutting a salad for herself while turning up the volume of the music so the noise from the bathroom wouldn't be too loud. Leo came downstairs and apologized for disturbing the homeowner's peace. Leo said this was really important to protect the house, especially in tough times like these. Leo then told a story about a man who broke into a house, tied up the whole family, cut their hair, then stuffed it in their mouths before slitting everyone's throats. Janet found the story interesting, even imagining herself approaching him and biting him. However, she snapped back to reality when Samuel appeared in the kitchen and told her that the water was on and they would leave with Leo. Left alone, Janet imagined herself as the main character in a horror movie. Morning came, and Janet woke up to the sound of noise. She was shocked to find workers in the house. Leo greeted her with an offer for an omelet, which they were about to cook. Janet was confused because the cleaning service had promised to come at 10 a.m., but that clearly hadn't happened. Janet went back to the bedroom and checked her husband's bill. She went to the bathroom and said that Evan couldn't have paid for the bathroom repair because there was no transaction like that. Leo calmly pulled Janet aside and told her that the man had been paid in cash because he was laundering money through their company. Leo also found it amusing that Janet hadn't bothered to find out where her husband was, even lying that he was on a business trip. Leo revealed that he didn't know where Evan was, maybe with a lover or attending an important conference. However, he wondered if Janet knew where her husband was. Janet, confused, went back to the kitchen, hearing renovation sounds coming from upstairs. Soon after that, Janet tried to kick them out. However, Leo threatened her. He said that he would take the equipment and demanded that Janet return home when he came back. Leo also wanted to know where her husband hid the money from money laundering. In a panic, Janet pushed Leo out of the house and quickly locked all the doors and windows. Janet watched as Leo and Samuel got into the car and left. Evening came and she made a sandwich for herself and poured a glass of drink. After placing everything on the tray, Janet walked to the garage. While brushing her teeth before bed, Janet noticed a tool that Leo had left behind. She placed the tool on the bedside table and then started writing in her diary. At midnight, Leo entered the garage through the small window. As Leo checked the car, he suddenly heard a strange sound. He turned on the light and saw Janet's husband, Evan, tied to a chair. Leo removed the duct tape from Evan's mouth. Leo told Evan that he wanted money from his big company in exchange for his freedom. Evan tried to persuade Leo not to do it and even offered more money, hoping to settle the matter peacefully. However, Leo kept arguing, and finally, Evan loudly called for his wife, Janet. Suddenly, Janet was behind Leo and attacked him immediately, but that wouldn't end it. Janet quickly grabbed a knife and gave brief resistance, but Leo pushed her to the floor and demanded that she tell him where the money was hidden. Janet finally managed to escape and ran to the bedroom. There, she armed herself with a stirrer, and when Leo entered her room, she shocked him with the tool. The next day, Janet called her friend, Tasha, and asked her to come over. Tasha, shocked by the mess around Janet, asked what was really going on. Janet said she intended to hire Tasha as her lawyer and wanted to know what to do next. When Tasha and Janet entered the garage, Tasha was shocked to see two men tied to chairs. Evan, Janet's husband, and Leo were there, clearly in terrible condition. After assessing the situation, Tasha suggested that they go upstairs and have a drink first. Janet started to open up and revealed that she knew her husband, Evan, was planning to find the stash of money Janet had hidden. While Evan was taking a shower, Janet took the opportunity to hit him on the head several times. After that, Janet dragged his weakened body to the garage. Tasha could only shake her head, not judging her friend. Tasha even gave Janet a huge discount on the services she offered, only asking for $100,000 in cash as payment. Janet opened the secret money box using the microwave and paid her friend. Not long after, Tasha's child reported that there was a man standing outside the house. Tasha and Janet went to check and saw Samuel outside the bathroom. Tasha, not wanting to make the situation more complicated, lied to Samuel, telling him that they had turned down Leo's offer and that Leo had already left. However, Samuel seemed very confused, admitting that he had no one and only had connections with Leo. That made him feel really lonely. After a brief conversation, Samuel called Leo. Tasha and Janet went to the garage to grab the phone that Samuel supposedly left behind. Tasha told Janet that they needed to get rid of Samuel quickly, as he was an unwanted witness who could ruin all their plans. They then put on special outfits and armed themselves with construction tools. Meanwhile, Samuel heard strange sounds coming from the garage and felt confused, trying to figure out what was going on. Unaware, Samuel peeked into the garage, where Tasha was discussing with Janet the best way to handle it. Tasha, noticing him, immediately chased after him and made a brutal retaliation. After that, with her friend, Tasha disposed of Samuel's body in the bathroom. While resting, Tasha ordered nuggets for her son and a salad for Janet. Janet went back to the basement, reflecting on who her next target would be. Eventually, Janet decided to feel a little sorry for Evan and chose to face him first. Before doing that, Janet read out the farewell letter she had written. Evan, who seemed stressed, called his wife a crazy old woman, which made Janet even more aggressive. Janet hurt her husband further, then spoke with Tasha, who seemed ready for whatever was coming next. On the other hand, Evan and Leo tried to escape. Unfortunately, Evan lost his life, but Leo managed to flee through the garage door. However, Janet didn't let him get away so easily. She ran him over with her car and, with a hint of sarcasm, said that she was grateful for the new bathroom she had gotten. Tasha, who didn't feel the need to stick around for too long, grabbed her food and left to meet her son. Meanwhile, Janet, in a chaotic state, hugged her husband's lifeless body. And that was the end of the story.